All right, we're recording now. No takebacks. How we doing? We talking goblins this week.
Goblins.
I saw like two of them running around in my backyard yesterday. It was nasty. They broke a hole in my fence.
I hate it when they do that.
They're nasty. They're kind of silly. You know, if you put like a mouse trap in a pie, might get 'em.
Yeah, it has to be directly in the pie and primed, because if you just set a normal mouse trap, they are going to take that and then set a trap for you. I had to just get the broom. I had to use brute force to get them out of there.
I tried to shoot goblins away with a broom.
Yeah.
I tried doing the little stick and box with a pie under it contraption, and then when I lifted up the box, they just tunneled under it, and next thing you know, I fell into a big hole they dug, and like, rats. I was stuck
just your little snickering.
Luckily, you smelled the pie and you floated back out of the hole. So. So everything was okay at the end of the day, but those goblins, man.
It was a good pie. Like, I keep doing that where I start baking it, then I start levitating, and I can't take it out of the oven. I'm like, oh, god damn.
Before you know it, the goblins are at the oven.
Yeah.
I want to say... Okay, sorry.
I was going to keep going on that tangent. You back to base, Mario.
I was going to say, I want to say, like, legitimately, no jokes at all, I think goblins are probably one of the best monsters of D&D. Yeah. Like, they are so versatile. Like, if you look at them as a whole of, like, goblinoids, like, looking at, like, bugbears and, like, fucking hobgoblins, there's also some other variants. One that I like using are Norkers, which are just goblins with big tusks.
I've never heard of those before.
Those are in Fiend Folio Volume 1. Like an old monster. They're really cool. They have stone skin. But fucking they're not stone-like skin. They got tough skin, and they're funny. They're like little Floridian goblins.
God, not Florida goblins.
Because they like, the idea of them too is like they talk so broken that even goblins don't understand them. Like, it's like they just like walk up and they're like the fucking guy from the Wild Thornberries.
Well, O'Donnell. I don't know, like, as someone who neighbors Florida, that is 100% feasible thing that goblins could just be in Central Florida, and it would just make sense.
Well, I mean, they are.
Well, yeah.
Literal, what is it, pot-bellied vampire goblins.
Big old pot-bellied vampire goblins.
Well, what happened was some game warden released them into the environment to try and cull the alligator population. The next thing you know, they start riding the alligators and become a whole new invasive species. And now the central area of Florida has been taken over by warlords that heard they're going to declare war into Miami next.
The worst part of it, nobody could have accounted that you could fit 5 to 6 goblins on one alligator. That was really the crux of the problem.
Yeah.
Fuck. That makes me think of like, legitimately how useful it is that goblins are so small. Like,
kobolds.
I've had shit where it's like, I remember my party fighting a group of ogres that had boxes as like backpacks on them, and they had little arrow slits inside, and they just had like 5 goblins inside shooting at people on a fucking
little Minecraft house.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
I want to say one of the best things about goblins in D&D is that they are possibly the only creature that by itself can pose a challenge or a threat to level 1 through level 20. They're just about the only thing that can do that.
Yeah.
Because
go ahead.
It really is the limit of a goblin is how creative a DM is, which I feel like every monster to that degree is. But goblins are one of them that you can get a little layered with it.
Like, it's like, I guess, for example, my party right now is at like level 12, I want to say 11 or 12. If I fuck that up, then my party's gonna. If they watch this video, they're gonna laugh at me and be like, "We leveled up." But fucking
the comments right now,
right now in the comments right now. But so early on, I was following like some old module called the Red Hand of Doom, something like that, and the whole premise is you're fighting goblins that are worshiping Tiamat, and one of the goblins fucking started to transform and like become like this blue dragon hobgoblin dude. and that's where Ezekiel comes from. But fucking regardless, that was like a whole thing of they fought those enemies at like our fifth session. Like fifth session, they like killed like a big bad and fucking like had like this big moment where they were like, all right, cool, and tried to continue on. These goblins have been a reoccurring threat throughout the campaign. No. It has been 2 years. We had like our 90th session last week. The motherfucker that is like the head of the goblins encountered them again, and they had this moment where they were in neutral territory, where they were like in this stone giant library, and they go in and they hear like this fucking familiar like disgusting laugh, and they open up the door, and there he is surrounded by like these big fucking stone giants, like listening to hear him tell stories, and like they had just been told, all right, as long as you're here in the library, you know, you're allowed in, you can look at whatever, just don't be violent, be careful to like take good care of like the books and stuff. And the players are like, yeah, sure thing. And then they encounter this dude, and now they have to just fucking put up with the fact that it's like you're on neutral ground.
Kill him. That's great. I love that. I'm using them in my campaign because one of the players who was originally part of the party and jumped off was playing a goblin. So I was like, okay, they're starting a village on this little island. The first guys I introduced, because a couple of them are new to the game, was a troop of goblins that had just moved there, and they were having trouble with setting up their camp because there was a dragon in the area eating all the food. So they were like, help. And then at the same time, the dragon swoops in, and them and the goblins fight them. So the goblins just join them, and they're the first villagers in that town. So they set up like sort of a little goblin camp, like the RuneScape area. Yeah. And then from that, people come in and can start to build a village. So it's fun to use them, I guess, as allies or enemies.
Yeah, well, they're in the end they're people, where it's just like you can
little tribal people.
That is the fun thing of there's a lot of times where it's like goblins are usually viewed as these like on the road kind of threats because it's like the idea of like these raiders and stuff. But in the end, it's like when you look at it, it's just like, oh, they're still people. So you could just fucking try to cut a deal with them, which usually tends to happen where it's like even with my party, when they would encounter these like armies of goblins, some of them, they know they're like, there's this zealotry behind it too, so they're like really like tied to their beliefs. But there's other ones that are like, dude, I don't want to fucking die, actually. Fuck this. I'm good. Like, what are you doing?
That's great.
You guys clearly seem to be the winning side. I'm joining you.
Which that's a good question. Do y'all? I assume y'all don't, but do y'all really mess with that at all? Where like that whole idea of an entire like just sect of monsters being evil, kind of like goblins, or you have it more limited to like tribes and groups of them?
I have made a bunch of videos on the topic. Evil is a goofy idea. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that you can designate creatures that are inherently militant, malicious, or their nature encroaches on the nature of other creatures. And I'm totally fine with using monsters like that. I feel like goblins function militantly. Geese, Canadian geese, they are always like chaotic evil or lawful evil. But they're a real thing. You know, that's just what they do. They encroach on territories and they attack. If goblins do that, that's fine. If orcs do that, it makes sense. But, you know, orcs are so close to humans, they're just like kind of barbaric.
Yeah. If anything, the only thing. The only thing that I ever like step on as like, oh, these guys are outright malicious, but you could probably still have like similar goals as them, is like demons or devils or something like that. It's just like at that point, it's just like you could work with them maybe, but like, you know, at the end of the day, there's still something malicious behind that. They're probably trying to pull one over on you.
Yeah, they're playing the long con.
Yeah. Well, that one I definitely understand. Like, especially when it comes to outer planar beings, that seems like they're set to a more rigid idea like that. But in planar, that's where everything's gray. Because I mean, shoot, the material plane is just a gray, big mix of all the outer plane's influences. So it makes more sense for all of them.
I think it might actually, if I'm not mistaken, it's the inverse, where our big hot pot medley of everything eventually distilled itself into ideas that people formed, and all the outer planes and the gods themselves are formed from the thoughts of people in the material plane.
That's how I run it.
Yeah, they're absolutist areas that like accidentally happen.
Okay, that makes sense. That might be mine. Since mine, it was the material plane kind of came after like all the outer world influences. It kind of came like a safe hub for the humanoid races. So that's kind of how mine
I like
was
that.
structured. But that
It's
makes
either
sense.
one or it's like all the gods collaboration project. They're like, let's do something fun, and then they make Earth.
Hey guys, we got a little fun project here today.
Called War Forever.
Yeah. Well, War Deity, what did you introduce to the group project? Yeah, I got this thing where they're all going to hate each other now. Why?
I thought it'd be really fun if they just like they looked. So I put this lake here in between these two people, and when they look across the lake and they see the other people, they hate them.
And they're like, why did they just inherently? Because
they're on this side, they're on that side. It's science, really.
You ever heard of the grass being greener?
Ever heard of Wumbo?
It gives him a face like, you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know why my mind just went to just like this new deity. Like, you ever heard of racism? I'm thinking of introducing a deity of that.
He walks into the room, everyone beats the shit out of him.
Hey, get the fuck out, man!
No,
proving my point.
Stop.
Dude, is that racism?
It's like, that's what I'm
Oh no!
You're perpetuating it. Grab his lip.
You know, that's just an even funnier idea of just that one guy from Smiling Friends being just like this
That's
vengeance
exactly
angel.
what I'm fucking thinking.
Oh,
Fucking so goblins.
yeah, goblins. Out of curiosity, out of the subtypes of goblins, what's y'all's favorite subtype?
Hobgoblins.
Mario.
I was gonna say that.
No, I actually don't like hobgoblins. Mario, what was the variant goblin that we made for the Rising Mountains campaign?
Oh, there was
Those guys. Gobgobs?
Yeah.
Like
The
that.
fucking- they like, or was it like the floating goblins kind of?
Yeah,
thing?
they're little like floating fetus goblins that can control the wind. Yeah,
I love
like
those
powers.
guys.
Yeah. But I would say bugbears are fun, but nah, base goblins are where it's at.
Yeah.
It's bugbears for me. I just they're so
Well, there you
weird.
go with the triad.
Yeah,
In a
it's
funny
perfect.
way. In a funny way, like the other ones that I really like are the ones that I had mentioned before, Norkers, just because they're like
Norkers.
they're supposed to be Norkers as in Norker. Norker.
Okay, those are the tusk goblins you mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I
those
googled
guys-
goblin, tusk goblins, and it just came up to a goblin dentist literally working on an ogre's tusk. So I'm not disappointed. I'm just surprised.
Apparently, there are also decanter goblins that kind of look like some of the goblins from the labyrinth.
Oh yeah,
They're little like
yeah.
rhino-looking goblins.
I love. Well,
That's such
Okay,
a
so
good
that's it.
depiction of goblins.
goblins in the labyrinth are some of my favorite depictions because they also. I like the idea of that variety, like, because people tend to kind of, I don't know, when you think of a goblin, you just think of like little guy with like pointy features kind of thing, like the green little goblino. And I just love the variation of how like gross and nasty like the labyrinth goblins are. They're such fun, like weird little creatures.
Yeah, and they're so diverse. There's also sea hobgoblins called the coalinths from Ghosts of Saltmarsh that I didn't know about.
Oh yeah. I remember those.
Norkers, snow goblins, which also look like dark crystal creatures or something. Varags, which is just like knoll goblins. Bakemono. I don't like that guy. And then there's something called a goblin rat, and it looks like a very racist depiction of an Asian man standing over a rat.
Oh,
This is in the Forgotten Realms wiki.
the racism deity strikes again.
Oh, you know.
There he is. And then the Verdants. There's also blue goblins. They're just called blue goblins. They're
They're
psionic.
goblins, but they're blue. Oh, I've heard of those. Yes,
Goblins.
I have heard of those. Oh my god!
You are not going to believe it. Who got enslaved by mind flayers this time?
Oh no!
I think the reason they're like that is because they went to like a different plane or something like that. I
Okay,
forget.
thank God it's something
They
different.
went on Delta instead of American.
Yeah. But
nothing.
yeah, no, I fucking love hobgoblins just because I think that little like military culture of theirs is really neat. I like I like that they kind of are the wranglers for the other goblinoids. They all work together because hobgoblins are like, all right, come here.
They're the middle managers of goblins.
Yeah, it's like I love the idea of hobgoblins also just constantly like just being stressed, having to work with like the bugbears and the goblins, where it's like you have these fucking ADHD little monsters like running around and they're just trying to like get them to do shit, and then you have like the bugbear that
laziest
doesn't
possible.
the laziest motherfucker, and he goes, okay, listen. What if I make you like a really good ham? Would you like you like come out and like do some stuff? And he's like, I guess.
I saw a couple of signs that my God said I should sleep today.
Yeah,
Come on,
guys,
man.
I'm not feeling the raid today. Can we like do it at like at least do it at 9 a.m. or something like that? It's dawn stuff sucks.
Okay, man. Like, listen. What if I give you 2 bugbear snacks?
Do it for 3 bugbear snacks and no less.
All right, it's a deal.
He gobbles them up like Scooby-Doo, and then he bashes somebody's head in.
And what if it's literally just like a buggy snack and it's just...
It's a buggy snack.
Would you do it for a buggy snack? Would I?
Raw.
I hear buggy snack.
Buggy snack. Rugwear snack. It's like, no. Why are you talking
I
like
have a
that?
bugbear that just
I'm gonna go
talks
talk to a different guy.
Actually, I don't like you.
Why do you talk like that? Stop.
Fucking hobgoblin walks in and he goes, well, all right, Buggy. I got 3 buggy snacks for you. Buggy snack.
Just instantly rolls a crit and kills God and just absolutely makes the Hobgoblin Empire last for eternity.
Yeah, that's actually a good segue. Do you guys know anything about Goblin God lore?
Maglubiet and like
Maglubiet and all of his homies.
Yeah, he killed a bunch of the the goblin gods had previous gods, and then he fucking murdered the shit out of them. And
All but like one, and one
Yeah.
is just his right hand man who likes to hit people with whips, and that's it.
there's also like the spirit
Yeah,
of one that makes no bogs and stuff like that.
The unnamed spirit of call him Nobog.
It's
no bog.
Backwards. Nobogs are great. I have one.
I like. I've never implemented one in a game. I don't think so. I feel like that'd be a fun thing to do. Is just throw no bog at somebody. Like not even like as necessarily like. The best way I could think of the encounter is more so just being like, oh, you come across a goblin camp and there's just like this creepy little goblin and everyone else is afraid of him.
He's like running around, slapping him in the face with his stick.
They just have to deal with his ass.
Yeah, there's one that's naked, and you're like, why? It's like, well, that's the Nilbog. You kill him, and then another goblin gets naked, and you're like, this is a problem.
Yeah, look at that annoying little thing. He's like a messenger of our god or whatever.
Mm-hmm. We hate that god.
Right,
Starts Fortnite dancing in the corner.
this time the mousetrap is going to work, and we're going to lock him in a box so another one can't spawn.
Schrodinger's Nilbog.
But isn't that how they end up like dealing with them? Is they have a thing where it's like, okay, to avoid no bogs, we select one goblin as the no bog, and we just treat him real nice.
Kind of. It's like if a goblin gets treated especially bad, and there is a fragment of Nilbog floating around, it'll pick that goblin and be like, you get your comeuppance now. And he's like all beaten and bruised, and now no one can mess with him.
What?
Yeah.
If any hobgoblin or bugbear messes with him, it comes back to him. It doesn't work.
So it's the plot line of The Giver.
What?
The thing about the giver is the one person who takes all the pain of everyone else and becomes like the giver of that town.
Oh. I'm sorry.
There's no way you have not read The Giver.
I think I have, but I don't remember it that well.
It is like I know everyone's first 13-year-old in this is deep book.
The Giver.
That must be a regional thing.
There's no way the South is forced to read The Giver and nowhere else.
No, I've read The Giver. I just don't remember The Giver that well.
Well, yeah,
I remember the bearded man on the book.
Yeah, the bearded man, the OG giver.
The OG
giver.
Yeah, but yeah, the whole thing was like to wrap up the tangent real quick. That joke failed, but
your joke sucked because we're stupid.
Somebody watched it and laughed.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm all fancy and educated. That totally got me far in life. But no, the giver is. It's basically they pick one person in their village in this utopian society to be their giver, who, since everything is so perfect now, no one remembers pain and loss and all this stuff, so they select one person to be that for the whole village.
That's epic.
And that guy became that, and yeah, then the rest of the book was I Am 13 and This Is Deep.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, no, you jogged my memory. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The Giver is the Nilbog.
That reminds me of a guy I used to know by the name of Jesus Christ.
You gotta get an Amy. Because that's what I'm expecting from the South, that's all I read. And it's like, today we're reading The Giver and how this relates to Jesus Christ.
And how it relates to goblins.
Goblins. By the way, goblins.
They show you a big old goblin on the screen, and they go, "So that's the Giver."
He's gonna come to your house, and he's gonna.
I would love that book a lot more if that was real.
Yeah. The South introduces the 3 G's: goblins, the Giver, and Jesus.
And Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
Just a little goblin with a Jesus beard.
Jesus robes.
Jesus.
He took the Nilbog for the rest of the goblins.
What do you like so much about bugbears, Chuck? Tell me.
Tell me. I think the same reason I like lions is just that they're this lazy giant animal that's like the most deadly thing on earth for 2 hours out of a day. Other than that, they're just laying there groaning.
I think the scariest thing about bugbears is that they're so fucking quiet.
Yeah, like
they're really good at
supernaturally quiet.
Even though they're like I remember playing that in a game one time in the sense of a player was playing a bugbear and they were like saying, could I scale they're trying to scope a place out and they're like, could I scale this thing? And they had like a little gnome with them. So they put like a gnome over their back and they basically carried the gnome over a wall and they're like, can anyone like notice me? Because they did like a stealth check and they got like a real high check, and I was like, dude, you're a fucking bugbear. Like you literally like your feet like do not make any noise when you like move around. So you just straight up like you with your big orangutan arms just grab up, scale up this fucking building. Nobody hears you, and you're just like moving around in corridors, and like you're this massive fucking dude that is like
that's me.
No noise at all.
That's me. I scare my girlfriend every day because I sneak up on her accidentally because my steps are so fucking quiet, and I'm 6 feet tall and my wingspan is that of a condor.
But that's that. Like basically, it's like just that scary. Like you just know how to step in a way that you make no noise at all, and that's just fucking bugbears, which is honestly horrifying because they're huge.
You think they have like anxiety?
They're such strange little creatures. Like they feel like some of the most monstrous of all actual monster races, where their arms are just like freakishly long. They got that natural stealth ability, just like their player races to have the brood ability, so they can do some insane damage for a CR1, doing like 2d8 in one hit. That's nuts.
2d8's crazy.
Yeah. For CR1, that actually is pretty nuts. But they're so lazy. I don't know. It just adds an interesting level of character to them. Like, Because I feel like the Hobgoblin and the Goblin trade, there's other races that kind of can fill that same void. Bugbears just feel unique in the sense that no one is lazy as them. They're just that special.
I would say, like, mechanics wise, that is another reason why I love goblins so much. Like what Logan said before of how they can be useful throughout any level. It's like hobgoblins can still be really scary because they have fucking martial advantage.
Oh, yeah.
And they get like a fucking like they get like a bonus damage of like, oh, if your buddy's next to you, you get to do more damage.
Oh, really?
And it's like, yeah. And that's like a thing of, so what ends up happening is, so I throw like 6 hobgoblins that just descend on a person because another fucking advantage of goblinoids is they fuck. They're fucking like, they have like so many of them. They're so abundant. And it's like this thing of just, I love the idea of just, yeah, you're walking down a road and then out of the trees, fucking like 50 goblins just descend on you.
Yeah. But yeah, no, hobgoblins in particular can be a huge threat at lay levels because, like, an actual
they're city
hobgoblin,
takers.
like war chief, like a king, warlord, whatever you want to have you, if they live that long, they're probably an actual tactical master, and they have a unit with them that's well tuned to how they fight, and they know how to make good use out of them. It's not like you're just fighting a bunch of loose like bandits in the woods.
No, that's the scary thing about any goblin hierarchy is that because they have such a militant pantheon, and like they're forced to work together because for goblins specifically, they know they can't beat you. Which is the biggest advantage any monster could ever have against you, is knowing that you're stronger.
Yeah, it's like
it has to compensate. But they're going to work together, and they're going to try to trap you before they try to kill you because they like being mean to people and making you work for them. Which means they also could have any variant of creature that they potentially caught, and now it works for them because they're like messing with it, have a bunch of like spikes in it.
That kind of brings me to a mount that goblins tend to use, wargs,
which are guys, aren't they?
They're kind of just guys.
Yeah, they have a human face, but a direwolf body, basically.
Yeah, and they have. Well, no, that's a different one because there's a type of double thing that looks like a goblin and then shifts into a warg, which is cool because I don't know. That's like a funny thing of like, I like the idea of capturing a goblin and they start telling you about their culture and they'll like start talking about like, oh god, do you think it's this thing? And it's like, what the fuck is that? And it's like, oh, it's like the warg man or something like that.
Is that ever explored, like druid goblins that can turn into wargs?
Not that I know of, but I mean that's a cool concept to throw in a game.
Yeah, I think it's like a mimicry thing, the way that Mario's describing it, if I remember. They're kind of like what are those birds that knock other birds out of the nest?
Kookaburras.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like goblin kookaburras, I think.
It just made me think of skinwalkers. Fucking
That's kind of what they are.
Yeah.
Goblin skinwalker. Goblin walkers.
I don't know why. I just imagined a bugbear skinwalker of how huge they are. You just come into their lair and they're like, "Oh, could you just leave? I don't feel like it today."
Something I did in my campaign was the idea that the reason there's like variations in goblinoids, which is also another fun question, is like, why the fuck are there like why are these all classified as the same thing even though they're like very different, but also still have similarities? But it's like, usually that's a route too. But my idea that I kind of had with that was, in my setting, it kind of had to do with this idea of like a long time ago there was like some big demon incursion thing, chaos kind of energy spilled out and it warped all the creatures and people that were there, and like the remainders were basically goblins. And my idea that I had with that was, for my setting, I kind of classified wargs as just another type of goblin, and that was just kind of a funny thing of just like, yeah, they just had dudes that they rode on, and like it definitely threw players for a loop because I really liked playing this idea of the players kind of know about goblins, but not that much. This is like straight up like going into the brunt of it and getting faced with like the wild shit of like what's up with goblins. And it's like you see these guys riding on these mounts and then all of a sudden, like, the mount starts like talking to the rider, like the rider gets knocked off, and like they start like scheming together and shit. It's like, what the fuck?
Horrifying. I hate that.
Ugh. That
It's
would be
fucking, like,
freaky if you
barks
just assume
orders.
it's a wolf and then
Wow.
it starts talking.
Goes Mao.
Yeah.
So,
So I noticed
yeah.
one thing I messed with was a specific brand of lycanthropy that went through a goblin encampment and started making werewolves.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah,
Werewolf.
Like they're
werewolves.
stronger wargs.
Yeah, and it was just fun. Like it was just like
Yeah.
they're basically like pint-sized lichens
Small.
that have like fury to small and like other little fun tactics.
If anything,
like
it's like they don't change, like, because it's a funny thing of, you get that thing of like, oh no, they're gonna become like werewolves now. They're gonna become like wild and fucking vicious, and it's like they were already like that. So it's just like you're
Now
just
they're
made
just a
them
little-
stronger.
Now they're just on all fours. That's all that's changed.
Well, they were always on all fours. With the wargs, like it's like
Oh yeah.
fucking That is a fun. Oh, then you get like weregoblins. I'm thinking like pint-sized fucking like werewolves on top of that. Weregoblins riding werewargs.
It's a vicious cycle.
They're symbiotic now.
Oh,
Chuck,
jeez.
how have you used goblins in your games? What's a memorable use of goblins?
Yeah, Chuck, you're the only one that hasn't answered you.
What me?
Tell us you. How do you use goblins?
Me? I was kind of avoiding that subject because I know a few of my players watch this, so I didn't want to.
Oh no, that's fair.
I didn't want to give away some future stuff in my campaign, but
The goblins are coming.
one thing I've been exploring in this setting now is there's an actual goblin kingdom that's pretty prominent right now. That's on overall decent grounds with the rest of the world right now.
That's cool.
Because they kind of were just like a city-state that was kind of dealt with, but now like they've expanded to a massive reach. So right now, most of the other kingdoms are like, all right, let's stay on good terms with these guys so things don't get too dicey. Because that'd be pretty bad for all the bordering nations.
No, if the goblins rose up.
Yeah. So right now, one hobgoblin in particular is made his own little feudal state where right now he's having a lot of children with local lords, and they're basically taking over like certain territories in the kingdom and all. So the rule all kind of stays under his family. It's a fun little tie-in for the party as well because they met the original Goblin Prince that was supposed to be the king of that nation, but due to circumstances in the campaign, he ended up disappearing.
Oh.
So now, like his cousin ended up taking the throne, and he's the one that made this feudal state go on.
Oh no.
So,
Never let a adjacent family member take over the throne. Never do that.
yeah, it was a fun thing I wanted to explore of just like a hobgoblin that got basically too tired of the militant lifestyle and what would happen. Where I had basically, I think I told y'all before that the only really kind of evil deities in my setting are more represent just like the negative sides of humanity. So I try to make my own version of 7 deadly sins, like an embodiment of each one. And the nightmare goddess in my world is also the deity of sloth, laziness, all that. And he was basically his whole life was forced to wake up at the crack of dawn and just work himself all through the day. Never got any rest. Never got anything decided for him. And just some days he just craved sleeping. And this a nightmare goddess comes to him. It's like, hey, I can make sure you sleep.
That sounds fun.
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever in the worst way possible.
Not going to reveal it, but he on stream anyways. They but yeah, that's what happened. Where when they met him, he was a warlock that was that basically seemed like he was sleepwalking everywhere all the time. But when he actually woke up, he was actually pretty dangerous when he did. And he traveled with the party and helped them a few times, and he was a fun little character. And his ending kind of ended pretty mysterious. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, he's definitely gone. The Nightmare Man.
Yeah, he's gone, man. You don't got to worry about him anymore. But that was a fun thing to kind of explore of just like what he would do just to avoid that lifestyle, and it ended up consuming him. So I thought it was a neat idea.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah. But that was more just him as a character than the whole that. They didn't really they didn't do a lot of exploring in the Goblin Kingdom in that setting, so I never got many chances to use them. But I'll never forget the irrational anger one of my players had, where I did that, where I had a goblin encounter where it was all mostly traps, like barricades and other stuff they did, and they were just trying to break down this wall full of arrow slits. And finally, when they broke down the wall, there was a second wall under it, and the goblin captain's like, they never expect a second wall. And one of my players was like, God!
We predicted you'd do this.
Fucking just fire the barrage!
Yeah, because then they're now stuck in between this partially broken wall and a new wall, and they just get fired upon, and he would mention that randomly for the longest time whenever he sees a goblin, like, you never expect a second wall.
Second row, begin firing. You can see the whites of their eyes. They're right there.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I love goblins.
Yeah, they're great.
No, I was laughing. I thought that was hilarious, but then all my players are like, no!
It's in the moment. It's like a thing of like, in the moment your players hate you. In retrospect, it's just like, that was awesome. I think
So proud.
I did a thing in one of my games. It was this. So I had that thing with Ezekiel. He has a. I did like I came up with this concept of like, oh, he has like these kind of second in command of these other goblins that range from like different things, where they have like a bugbear, like a legit little goblin, fucking warg, etc. And they're like all like different colors of dragons and stuff. And there was a point where they were basically about to kill the red dragon, like Wormlord. And one of my players, she decided, as a fuck you, I'm going to finish her off. I'm standing over her. I'm going to blast her with a firebolt. And like, I had a thing in my notes where I was like, if they start taking fire damage, they'll go into like a second phase and like start to power up. So they were like really low HP. And it was this thing where it's like they're standing over the body, they fire the firebolt, and I say, you watch the fire go over her face, and then you hear this hard as it like sucks it up, and like the fucking face gets it covered in like this fiery mane. I have like different art that I had done for like the thing, and they're like, what the fuck? And like
God
at
damn
the it turned into a whole different like second thing. It was, everybody almost died. It was, the only thing that saved them was, I think it was I was describing that it started to become like the sun was rising, the goblins were attacking at night, and there was this fucking point where they had these ballista archers, and I kept having them fire like at the start of the round, and at that point it was just like, okay, I was letting my players control the ballista archers, and I was just like at the start of the round, they were just like, fuck it, everyone focus fire on her. And so like all these ballistas go off, and it's just like this thing of like, you just watch as like 4 giant ballistas like slam into her body.
My God.
And it's just like this fucking thing of, after all of that, my player, she just goes, that was fun, but that fire thing was really bullshit.
I love when like players take actions that you had planned weeks in advance, and you're like,
yes,
if they do this, there's a penalty, and then they do it, and they're like,
it's like it's like that thing of just like, they're gonna think this is bullshit, but I have it in my fucking notes right here. I wrote that 2 weeks ago.
I actually had one event where the players needed to get something from a demon contractor who worked in a big business that's part of a city that's owned by that business. And he's like, look, I need you to go get a fancy little box that doesn't open. We don't know what's in it, but we know the king wants it. And like these smugglers stole it. So they go to the smuggler den, and then they eventually get the magic box, and before taking it back, one of the party members like sneaks away and uses unlocks the arcane lock on it and takes out this fancy ass crown, and then closes the box and reseals it with magic. And then they give it to the guy, and he gives it to the king. And as the party's leaving, they see this procession for another dwarven king who's visiting the city. And it turns out there was a huge trade, like, between these two cities where tensions are high. And that was like a gift, as like, look, we want to be friends with you. Oh. And this is like this ancient crown. I didn't really plan for the players to steal it. Yeah. They could have. Oh. So immediately when they get back home and they leave these two cities, they just hear like, yeah, there's a war starting. Because they give this guy an empty box and he sees it as like a fuck you. He's like, fuck me? Why? Fuck you.
Me? Fuck you. He fucking stabs the guy.
Yeah, pretty much. He's like, look, we're going to take 2 days. We're going to raid those guys that stole it. We're going to look for it everywhere. And the party's like, they didn't know. So and then a big dragon who's a friend of the dwarven guys shows up to the party and he's like, look, you're employed by me. If war starts, you're helping them. And they're like, wait. And he's like, unless someone finds that crown tomorrow. And the person who has it is like, sucks, man. It's terrible news.
Damn.
Dang.
Wouldn't be me though. Man. Couldn't be me though.
I didn't plan for that, but it was in the notes. That's what it was for.
Awesome. I love that shit. I love that.
That is amazing.
I love just like the long time repercussions or like the fucking like the it is like that fun thing of you want to make the world feel like it can still live without the players, like it's still out there without them, but so their actions have so many consequences that sway so much, and it's really fucking great.
The negative consequences are always my favorite. I have one too many of them.
Oh yeah, definitely make it a fluid world, but the ripples can be seen. Yeah,
like
we're
so poetic, so poetic.
We're getting right to the wrapping point, so this kind of came tradition at this point. So, how would you rate Goblins overall?
A fucking 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
Oh, I'm going to be the odd one out here. I was going to say 3 out of 5.
Wow. What doesn't make him a 5 for you?
Okay. I just like more monstrous enemies in general. That's usually how I feel about it. Like, I like little fun stuff like that, but whenever I'm doing major encounters, I like it.
You want them to feel spooky.
Yeah. I can get that. Like, you want, like, the big... Like, it's like the...
It needs to be serious. Goblins.
Yeah, it's like...
Okay.
Yeah. I can see that, where it's like... Because I can see establishing a goblin as, like, that big, scary bad, but I also feel like that takes a bit of work of, like, building that up versus, like... You like versus I plopped a lich in front of the players. You know what the fuck this is, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like more monstrous enemies whenever I'm designing like major villains and stuff like that. But y'all know me. I'm a goofy little guy. Every now and then I like throwing them at them and having a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. But
is the Noid a Goblinoid?
100%.
Okay.
He is somehow a half-breed between every single goblin. Don't ask, man. Don't ask.
I wasn't going to. I don't want to.
Well, listen, the pizza party got real crazy, and that's why he hates him.
Okay, that's the wrapping point.